Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested here. This week's episode of This Is Only a Test is sponsored by Telecommunications Systems. Imagine being able to message anywhere in the world using your own system, application, or website. Telecommunications Systems Cloud Messaging Center allows you to do just that, as well as receive delivery receipts, create contacts and groups, schedule deliveries of messages, create and view reports, and more. Visit cloudmessaging.guru, that's .guru, and sign up for a CMC REST API. In just a few easy lines of code, let Telecommunications Systems Cloud Messaging Center incorporate worldwide messaging functions into your business. And now on with this week's show. Welcome to This Is Only a Test. Wait, it's Thursday. It's Thursday, December 17th, 2015. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Hey everyone, it's Norm here hosting this week's episode of This Is Only a Test, and I'm joined immediately to my left, Sean Charlesworth.
Hello.
And to his left, Jeremy Williams.
Hello.
So let's get right to it. We're recording this on a Thursday. It's a little late for us because I had to excuse myself from the country, from the internet even.
Why was that?
Well, Star Wars, The Force Awakens, is out.
Yes.
By the time you listen to this, in some parts of the world, in many parts of the world, millions of people will have already seen the movie.
Oh, yes. Well, it will have been out in all parts of the world, won't it? Because it sort of launched last night at 8 o'clock.
That's right.
So we're in it.
Well, last night,
Yeah.
meaning
Wednesday.
it's Thursday.
Well, no. It wasn't the first showing on Wednesdays?
First showing is
The first
Thursday.
showing is Thursday.
Thursday, 7 p.m.
Oh, 7
in
p.m.
Australia.
Okay.
So just like, let me
Yeah.
put it in terms you can understand, Jeremy. It's just like when Apple releases a product. The first people to get the Apple product.
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
That's
So
right.
the first public people to see Star Wars, Thursday, 7 p.m. New Zealand
Maybe I read
time.
that in France they aired it on Wednesday. I think that might be the case. But the official premiere was earlier this week in L.A.
Yeah, that's right. And review screenings were the following day, on Tuesday. Reviews went out Wednesday, and I had to leave the country.
Yeah.
To avoid any possible bit of information. Thank goodness, by the time you guys are listening to this, I will be in the theater with my phone on silent and off, and not and just enjoying the movie, not spoiling it.
You can
Yeah,
leave the
yeah.
country, but the internet is everywhere.
Well, the reason I left the country was also because my AT&T cell plan doesn't work overseas, and so I did not have internet.
Oh, you didn't have data.
I didn't have data. That was a good way to do it, right?
That's extreme.
I took myself out of the equation.
I can relate to that because I tried to stay off the internet this week, but I stayed here in San Francisco, and apparently my mouse is like a Ouija board, and it has to click on Reddit and Twitter all the time, and I have no control over it. It's kind of spooky, honestly. Like, I will launch Reddit, and then I will start reading it, and I'll say, wait a minute, no, stop! And, like, there's even threads on there where the headline is, don't read Reddit because people's usernames are spoiling the movie.
Oh,
right.
that's a
So
move.
I'll shut it down, and then I'll say, I wonder what's on Reddit, and I'll click it again. And I'm the same way with Twitter.
You just can't
so
help yourself.
you close it, and then you immediately, your brain thinks, oh, I haven't checked it in the last 0.25 seconds.
No,
Let me open the web
I'm
browser and click the link again.
It is a Ouija board, and my mouse has a mind of its own. I can't control
that
it.
would explain.
Now, the muscle memory, I'm familiar with that because I do the exact same thing with the Twitter application on my phone. When I close the web browser,
Yeah.
Chrome or Gmail, my thumb immediately, muscle memory, clicks Twitter because my brain says, I've checked the latest on the static pages and then mail. Well, where's the next place where I can get the stream information? It's Twitter. So I took Twitter off of my front page and put it in a folder on the last page of the phone to do not open till after Christmas
Or tonight,
or
right?
tonight.
Yeah.
It will come back tonight. So staying off the internet, it's has there ever been a movie? Because we didn't have the internet as it exists today, obviously, in 1999 when The Phantom Menace came out. Even when, I guess, the last big movie, because I definitely didn't feel this way for Jurassic World, and Jurassic World broke all box office records. But I guess The Avengers was the last movie. But I watched every trailer for The Avengers, and while there were surprises, and a lot of the surprises in The Avengers came from the dialogue and how well everything melded together, I knew the elements. I knew what they were leading up to. Here, you don't want to know.
It's a different thing. It's a different animal.
And the fierceness with which people want to stay in the dark about this movie is strong. And so that is counterbalanced by the trolls, who are trying their best to ruin it for other people.
And the streams of information we're talking about, whether it's websites, email, or Twitter, so many of that gives opportunity for trolling.
Yeah.
Well, the images now, Twitter, you click, the images aren't just, you don't click them to reveal the full image. It will be full bleed images.
Yeah, I'm actually impressed that I've made it this far. I only have to make it another 24 hours. I'm seeing it tomorrow night.
And so you are staying off dinner. You told us at lunch about a conversation you had with your son.
My 8-year-old son.
Who's excited?
He was Kylo Ren for Halloween. He loves Star Wars. He's of the age where he likes the prequels. I mean, the kids do like the prequels. And I told him, I sat him down last night. We're seeing it Sunday because the showtimes were too late to see it tomorrow. We're seeing it Sunday afternoon, and I said, listen, if you hear something at school between now and then, you have to keep that to yourself. Because people your age, they like to talk about what they know. 8-year-olds, I don't know if you guys have much experience with 8-year-olds, but they
tell everything they know.
They love to share information, especially if it's information that's, exclusive.
Yes.
If one of them hears that if a horse and a pig sleep in the same barn together and a snake comes out the next morning, they will pass this on as information. Like, this is like, they will believe it and they will pass it.
So whether it's true or not, you just don't even want any hints of information.
No.
And so what did you tell your son? You said, do not tell me anything.
I said, I don't want to know anything. I don't want to know the color hair anybody has. I don't want to know anything about a lightsaber. And of course, like that's what, like, he feels he has information on why Kylo Ren's lightsaber is the way it is.
Now, I feel like if you tell that explicitly to your son, who may not be a troll in the way of internet trolls, he would feel empowered by that very conversation.
Well, it's a game he can play. But
were there repercussions?
This
is where you
Of course there are.
Oh.
Of course. I'm taking him to see the movie. He needs me to be in a good mood if he wants to have a good time and enjoy candy. So I think I made it clear to him not to share any information with me that he gleans from 3rd grade.
Now, I've seen the trailers, and I don't take any particular pride in not knowing any bit of information. I know some people do, but there are plot points, and there's a movie in your head, and by all accounts, the movie that we're going to see is better than the movie you can imagine.
What? I don't know anything about these accounts. I don't even want to know about these accounts.
You don't even want to know about the reviews.
I went to The Verge, and I was upset to see their feelings about the movie in a headline at the top of the page.
Oh, no.
I don't want that. I want to go in. I want to make my own, feelings about the movie. Yeah. Do you want to know people's reviews?
I know. The only thing I do know is that when the reviews came out, I checked Rotten Tomatoes because you can just see the front page.
Oh, why would you do that?
Well,
now your expectations are set.
It was 100% at one point. One point. And I was like, wow. It was also like 2 a.m. in the morning on Wednesday night. And then most recently, I believe it is around in the high 90s with all the reviews having come out, which is that's great. That's a vote of confidence.
So now what? Like it's gonna be a high 90s movie. You're gonna go in. If it's an 80, you're gonna be disappointed. Maybe. I stay away
it's
from
a good
that
question.
stuff.
Like if I had looked at it and won, like I guess it being in the high 90s is exactly where I want it to be. That's where like the original. That's where the 2009 reboot of Star Trek was, and that was also a J.J. Abrams movie. Yeah. And I was very happy with that. I didn't know much about that information. I didn't know Spock was going to be in it. Like, I didn't know what his role was going to be. With this, if the reviews had been in the 80s, Rotten Tomatoes, and Rotten Tomatoes is not Metafilter or Metacritic. It's not an average of scores.
That's right.
I don't know what the average of scores is. It could be universally
it's a
good,
measure,
but not great.
It's a measure of how many people thought it didn't suck.
That's right.
That's all.
And if 100% of the reviewers thought it was a B- movie, which is a good movie,
Yeah, thumbs up.
then it's 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
You also have to remember when Kevin Smith saw episode 3 early before anyone else did. He came out and reported to the internet. I think, I don't know. I read it on Ain't It Cool, that this is the one. That this is the movie that all of these prequels should have lived up to.
That statement is qualified both by the mention of Kevin Smith and Ain't It Cool, both people and places, a person and a place known for hyperbole and overexcitement and fast reactions.
Well, there you go. So all of these reviews that you've read, I feel might fall into that
I
category.
haven't read any reviews.
Well, I'm saying the thumbs up, in the very nature of the thumbs up, falls into the early review category.
Jeremy, you can't even go to a supermarket and look at newspapers because you know what's on the top banner above the fold,
It's
the
true.
actual fold of newspapers? They're the 10-word summary of a Star Wars review.
Of course it is, because that's going to sell. And I don't blame the publications. I just have to stay blinded to them.
Yeah.
Sean, what are your thoughts on this?
I fall somewhere in between. I mean, I followed all the behind the scenes stuff that they were posting very early on, like first looks at the set and the Falcon and stuff like that. I've watched all the teasers and the trailer, and then I quit because I didn't want to get too much. So the trailer gave me just enough, and I don't want to know anymore. And as far as I've been on Twitter and I think it speaks to the quality of people that I follow on Twitter. But I've gotten we were talking at lunch. Adam Rogers from Wired, basically he just said, "I am pleased," and that is good enough for me. I don't need to read any reviews. I don't need to know anything else. I just have trusted sources who have just stated that they're happy, and so I'm even more excited.
Let's just say I've had to block one person on Twitter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why? Was it a spoiler?
Yes. And it wasn't like public. It was sent to me.
You were spoiled.
Yes.
You have been spoiled already. Like a plot point?
It
said
could
too
have been
much.
worse. It could have been worse, but I chose to avert my eyes. Let's just say that.
Wow.
And
You can't trust image macros. There's so much.
You pick up on things much quicker than you think, just by glancing at it. Yeah, I'm excited because I really have no idea what's going to happen in this movie.
Yes, exactly.
Which is like
yes,
which is what is exciting for me because like you went into like
Well, you know there's gonna be another one and another one.
yeah
You know that.
And that's fine, but I can anticipate what's going to happen based on this. But like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I really don't, and so that I'm very excited for that.
Yes, but they've set it up so that there are already mysteries based on the poster and the trailers. Like they're huge mysteries that you are asking yourself already before this first of this new trilogy.
Yeah, and I got my own personal theories, and it'll be fun to talk about them afterwards.
You should write those theories down, put them in an envelope, and read them at next week's episode of the podcast.
Do that, yes.
After we've
I
all
will do
seen the
that.
movie. I think you should get a magic eye book and train your eyes to quickly blur. So as you're going to check email in the next 2 days,
Yeah.
you can blur read things based on subject lines,
Yeah.
things you can't avoid. Or you could change your mail application settings so it does not load like the first 3 lines of the body of the text. So you're only seeing who it's from.
Or run Netscape 1.0, which doesn't support images.
Hey,
And you're set.
yeah, there's a I believe
you
a
could do that.
Firefox browser, or there's a browser extension for that now for mobile, and there's also a Chrome extension that theoretically scans the page and will block any mentions
No
of
way.
Star Wars
No way.
images
Yes,
of Star
there
Wars.
is.
And
Yes.
the page will
That's
just say
awesome.
there are spoilers on this page.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, full screen blackout.
great.
And I don't want to load this.
I'm really curious to see, if we have an Empire situation where there's something like really effing big in these. How are they going to keep that secret in any of these next movies?
Yeah, Joey's loading up right now. Joey has the Chrome extension where it says this page contains spoilers for Star Wars.
It blocked our podcast.
To be clear, Joey is the most hardcore person I know about staying in the dark.
Yeah, nothing. He's seen nothing.
That extension is better safe than sorry. I don't care if there are false positives. It
Right.
just can't let anything through.
Absolutely.
That's the mark of a decent extension. We're going to talk about a bunch of other pop culture and movie news because I know there are other trailers that were released this past week, but we're going to get to that at the end of the show because this is a technology show. And one big piece of tech news that came out this week is that the FAA has officially launched its drone registration rules.
Yep.
It's official. They took in the recommendations of their task force, which laid out the parameters of how people could register, what UASs, unmanned aerial systems, would need to be registered, for which the recommendation was based on weight. You categorize it based on anything under 55 pounds or above
0.55 pounds.
0.55 pounds,
Right.
250 grams. And that is exactly what the FAA issued on Monday at a press conference. So here's the deal. Starting December 21st, that's next Monday, you can go to the FAA website and give them your name, mailing address, and email address, pay $5, which is how much I believe it costs to register with the FAA as a pilot, and then they will give you a ID, and you have to mark that ID on all of your quadcopters in that range.
That's what I was
It's
gonna
not
ask, yeah.
it's not registering the individual quadcopters.
Right.
The one-time fee lasts 3 years, and they're also waiving the fee for the first 30 days. But enforcement begins in February.
Wow, that's pretty quick.
It is very quick. They're anticipating hundreds of thousands of these quads different, because there are also toy helicopters and airplanes all fit
Christmas,
under this broad categorization, and they're anticipating all of those to be sold this holiday, and so they want people to mark them. Now, enforcement is the big issue here. There's no way to enforce. In the 200-page document, which our quadcopter expert, Terry Dunn, read through, parsed through, and provided his analysis for, there are so many loopholes around the system. You could loan a quadcopter to a friend, and they would fly and would have your number on it. There's no way, if you see a quadcopter in the sky, you have to get the actual quad with the number, and then it traces back.
They do allow you to lend it, though. I mean,
They do.
That's not against the rules.
It's not, yeah. So it's not a full coverage thing. It is kind of the nuclear option, and I think it's going a little too far. I think they were freaked out. They acted way too quickly because of...
It could have been worse. It could have been registering each individual drone. There's no safety test that the pilot has to take, which actually I would be in favor of, because I would treat that as a game and I would enjoy that personally. But
well, I don't think that... this leaves the door open for tiers of registration, where this first step,
Yeah.
the $5 give your personal information, is just to own, but doesn't give you the right to fly in particular places. And so it could be a next step up.
Maybe.
Register again, pass certification, pass the flying tests, and then you could fly in specific places.
this isn't a commercial license either. Those haven't been unveiled yet.
No,
So
this is just a hobbyist
this
license.
is just for hobbyists. And it's worth pointing out what the penalties are if you don't register and you're busted and a police officer comes and asks you for your license and registration. The FAA may assess civil penalties up to $27,500.
in extreme cases, yeah.
Criminal penalties include fines of up to $250,000 and or imprisonment for up to 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so register. Pay the $5.
It is waived
Yeah,
in the first month. I'm going to do it. I'm absolutely going to do it.
absolutely. You get a low number. You'd be like super cool.
I don't.
That's my plan. I'm going to be up at midnight.
Really? Pilot 00007.
That's me. Yep.
007.
So with their the regulations, what's how big does it have to go until you have to get it registered?
It's 250 grams just by weight. It's not functionality.
I don't know.
It's a half a pound. So
Half a pound.
they said that most of the toys that they bought for $100 in coming up with these rules,
Yeah.
$100 or less, weighed less than half a pound.
So
So
if you got
they're
like
they're trying to say toys are okay.
Yeah.
Like don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But if you have
Or like a
Phantom,
parrot drone or something.
yeah, those
maybe.
probably going to be higher.
Yeah.
And it's the whole payload. So you have to include the batteries, the cameras, anything that you're going to include when you fly.
Got it. So how does that work? So you got, for example, you have the Phantom on loan.
Yes.
How does that work?
That's right. How does it work?
Yeah.
It doesn't. I think you have to have, you still, if you're going to fly it, you still have to have your own ID number. But if you don't have it on loan,
I don't know if that's the case. I think the drone just has. And here's the other thing: everyone's calling they call it a drone in this official document.
No.
Drone has become an ambiguous term. It used to mean something. It used to mean to me it
Autonomous
meant
flying.
autonomous, like totally autonomous.
yes. And there is no great, RC flying device. you can't say quadcopters because this encompasses fixed-wing aircraft.
Right.
This encompasses helicopters.
Yeah.
Not just quads, which are the things that have become popular and more accessible. But yeah, drone. I'm okay with drone being the broad phrase for it.
It is
because
now.
there is no good word.
Right.
I mean, if you guys can think of a better word, come up. UAS is the technical term for it, but that's kind of clumsy.
So I mean, so we've had the quite large RC planes and helicopters around a while. What kind of regulations are those under? And is this
Actually
does this go?
covers it.
With,
And
Same
which
thing.
is why this is also pissing off a lot of the long-time hobbyists
Right.
who never had to register, because now they do and falls under this umbrella as well.
That's
Those
not
systems, which did not have GPS and don't have
Yeah.
autonomous flight capabilities,
Require a ton more skill.
yes, absolutely, and are less accessible. People are buying those and giving those as gifts. People
Yep.
are mostly buying these small nano quads and micro quads. You get at Radio Shack at the mall, and although many of those over half a pound will have to be registered.
Unless you fly them inside. If you fly them indoors, you're totally in the clear.
And
No,
your own private,
no matter what it is.
but only indoors, not even above your own airspace.
Right.
Because the FAA, above a certain height, they regulate that airspace. Another very popular toy this holiday season is going to be, and also something with a terrible name that no one has figured out a great name for, hoverboards. I know. This one I can't abide by. I think both BuzzFeed and Fusion had a great list of alternative names for hoverboards. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, this is not the boosted board. This is not an actual hovering skateboard
Right.
like the Hendo board or that Lexus prototype. These are those two-wheel gyro-stabilized scooters,
Right,
essentially.
like a Segway with no
Yeah.
bar.
Exactly, no bar. And they're extremely popular, about $500. So many companies in Asia are making them right now. You can't even, like, they all look exactly the same. And I think that even the Wirecutter did like a test of them, but some of them have been known to catch on fire. And it's because of the batteries.
Yeah.
And because they're making them so quickly and churning them out
Yeesh.
and trying to get them into people's hands for this holiday season, a lot of factories that make these lithium-ion batteries, and the consistency is not as good as in the top-tier manufacturers.
Yeah.
So the problem's in the batteries. Amazon actually last week pulled some of the hoverboards from its store pending a safety review, which is good. But I think the big problem is people calling them hoverboards.
Not the fire.
Not the fire.
That's a bigger.
If you're going to use it,
Yes.
burn. No, don't. Be careful. But we need to come up with a better name for these.
Please. Doesn't look like a hoverboard at all. I want to try one though. I will say I don't have any interest in owning one because I just feel like that would lead to Wally. The whole obesity.
Oh,
'cause
you think it's
no
first step
exercise.
to Red
People
Cup, Blue
mover?
Cup?
Yeah. But I do want to try one. I'm surprised at how easy they look to ride. Because I've seen people ride them and they don't seem to be having any trouble.
So BuzzFeed had, oh my goodness, they have a list of alternative names. I thought some of these are actually pretty clever. Well, first of all, Jeremy, would you consider the boosted board a hoverboard? That's an electric skateboard.
It's the closest thing. I think it's closer to a hoverboard than these because it's a skateboard.
It's skateboard form factor.
Yeah, and it goes fast.
Yeah. But that one you can call an electric skateboard and
Exactly.
be okay with it.
That's right.
I think these are gyro scooters.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Yes.
Gyro scooters.
From
Isn't
now
that
on.
descriptive.
From now on.
So.
Let it be known.
But I'm not as clever as some of the writers at BuzzFeed, and I'm just going to run down some of their alternative names. Give me the thumbs up, a yay or a nay for each of these names, guys. Hands-free Segway. Nay.
Nay.
Hey, no.
Bro-kart.
Ah, no.
That was pretty clever. The Virgin Mobile.
The Virgin Mobile. That's funny.
Heels on Wheels, which actually is descriptive,
That's pretty good.
Yeah?
I kind of like it. Yeah.
right? Nerd Mover. That's one maybe a little offensive for some people. The Douche Scoot.
Yep.
And the rest are not that great, actually.
Nope.
Those are. It's pretty good.
I think Heels on Wheels actually, as lame as that sounds,
I got a Heels on Wheels.
it actually is pretty descriptive of what these things do. Gyro scooter.
I think gyro scooter is probably the best. Yeah.
That's
That
the
would-
best we're going to come up
that-
with
That could be reasonably used.
on this podcast. Also, earlier this week, we started to get rumors of the Samsung Galaxy S7, Samsung's next Galaxy phone, flagship phone. Now, the Galaxy S6, which is the phone that also works with the Gear VR, it looks a lot like the iPhone. They did many things to change it from the to make it more iPhone-like from the Galaxy S5. They took away a removable battery, took away the USB-C connection or USB 3 connector. They took away micro SD cards and kind of made this solid unibody form factor that actually looks a lot like the iPhone 6. Well, the S7 rumors are that the S7 will have a pressure-sensitive display and also a USB-C connector, but its big feature may be a high-speed charging port, which allows it to charge, I believe...
Speaking of fire.
Well, I believe what they say, what the rumors are, it's like 30 minutes for full charge? Yeah.
Nice.
30 minutes for a full charge. Of course, we don't know what battery capacity is like. What do you guys think about that?
Sounds good.
I mean, great. What?
I think the pressure sensitivity stuff is going to be a non-starter for them. Really, it's Android doesn't have native support for it. Samsung has been known to put features on their phones, and then later Android gets final support for it. But next year, pressure-sensitive screen on a Samsung phone is really a Me Too feature for them. I think faster charging on phones is something I definitely want.
Yes.
Now, when the rumors say 30 minutes for a full day's use or 30 minutes for a full charge, a full day's use isn't 100%. And something I've always wondered about is, when you see your iPhone battery and it's listed as 100%, or your Android phone and you have a percentage indicator, those percentage indicators, that marking isn't a linear curve. It kind of has most of the battery life, or a lot of it, in that top 20%. Then the middle 40% drains relatively quickly compared to that first 20%. And then the last 20% drain a little slower as well. It's just the way the chemistry of these batteries work. Now, why doesn't the software account for that? So it is, when you see 100%, when you see 90%, you can actually do the math and say, okay, if I've used an hour of use at 90%, then I have 9 more hours of actual use, as opposed to if I've used, it took me 3 hours to get down to 90%, but then the next 3 hours takes you down to 40%.
Yep.
So why is that?
Because they want people to think that the battery is lasting longer. Is there an answer to this?
I don't know. Is it a software/chemistry problem where either the software can't detect the capacity accurately?
I have no idea.
Is it because it's purely it's like, as you say, the impression you want to give, the impression that the battery is actually higher capacity or higher usage. Like, there's a difference between measuring pure capacity and usage time.
Yeah.
And I would think that you want to measure usage time.
Yeah, right. That makes sense to me. I mean, maybe the fact is that curve changes over time. Otherwise, that would be a simple problem to solve. They would just convert it to hours. They'd figure out whatever percentage equaled whatever hours. But maybe that curve changes over the life of the battery. Don't know. But as far as the Android features go, I feel like the whole cell phone industry right now is running up to diminishing returns, where the changes don't make as much difference as they used to. And I don't know if the Android developers are going to be able to make 3D Touch a more compelling feature than Apple has so far. But I'm still kind of surprised that we're seeing headlines about new apps released that have 3D Touch enabled, because I'm just not overwhelmed by its functionality.
And you're saying you would prefer less of these small iterative features and more overhauls.
Well, I don't know if it's possible anymore. We have a pretty mature, industry right now. I mean, we have pretty mature machines that fit in our pockets. Now, that's just sort of where it is. I'm not buying PCs as often as I used to either. because the PC is now very mature.
Well, that's
and
because the
video
software doesn't
cards-
need for it. Mature meaning the applications don't call for
Right.
the extra power, or the media isn't there to call for the extra storage capacity.
or the new resolutions that I'm running. I mean, I'm happy where I'm at.
And like for memory is getting cheaper, but you don't need you're not editing 4K video. It's not the things. I mean, 4K video and VR I think are going to push PC sales.
Well, yes, that's
Tremendously.
true. That's true. But that's a very small subset. And I think that the people who care about a 30-minute charge on your battery is also not the entire Android audience. I mean, I think most people are probably getting along just fine with their battery life. They charge it at night. That's just part of their cycle.
I think you're giving those people too much credit. I think charging every night is a good behavior model.
Yeah.
Or figuring out some regular behavior, but I think a lot of people actually don't charge every night and forget to charge, and could use the boost, the 30-minute boost, when they're traveling.
Sure. I don't know what percentage of the Android market that is. I'm saying it's maybe less than half. In any case, it's not the whole market. And they used features that used to come out in phones used to affect everybody.
That's right. That's right. Well, speaking of battery, last week we did talk about the Apple battery case, and we badmouthed it. We thought we poo-pooed it. Since then, Tim Cook has come out and defended it and given some more clarification, his perspective, and from the Apple pundits' perspective of why this battery case, which is honestly, it's just a battery case, why it's designed this way.
Yeah.
Something that we didn't talk about was that the battery on existing battery cases could affect the antenna. And so Apple designed its battery case so that the battery would not. Actually, there's passive antennas built into the case that help with the reception.
Still ugly.
It absolutely still ugly. The other big thing they did, and that we didn't specifically mention, is that it's easy to remove. That the case is actually the same silicone. The rest of the case outside of the hump,
The top part.
the top part is just silicone, so you can stretch it and pull it over the phone, as opposed to just clamping two pieces together on a hard shell like some of the other cases. I get that. Like Sean says, though, it's still a really ugly case.
Yeah,
and
what's he say about that?
I don't think he has an answer.
No, he really
I think
didn't.
I'm sorry, Congressman, you didn't answer the question.
I think his answer is that it's a case that you use when you need the power.
Yeah.
Because when you plug it in, it's going to charge your phone. You can't start and stop it. So it's only something you're going to attach to your phone when your phone is in need of power. It's not something meant to be on your phone all the time.
Well,
like
then
some people.
why don't you just have a
Exactly.
battery pack?
Why not just sell like a small stick of gum sized battery pack that you can plug into the lightning port?
Yeah.
Why not? And maybe have that battery pack also work with the Apple Pencil, so you can plug the Apple Pencil in and charge your Apple Pencil. Brilliant,
There you go.
right? $99, Apple Store. That's an accessory you throw in your bag.
Norman Ive.
I don't think so. Let's talk about Pebble time. Jeremy, you're using the Apple Watch. Sean, you use an analog watch. But both of you, or Jeremy, you at least, live with a Pebble for a little while.
A week. Yeah.
A week.
What? At least I gave it a week. And I wanted to know why I preferred the Apple Watch, if I did, to the whatever else was out there. And you guys liked the Pebble so much. You and Will used to talk about it. That was your watch for a year or so.
Yeah, I really like the original Pebble Steel.
Yeah.
And on Android, Pebble works wonderfully. There's a lot of things just the long battery life, not with the Pebble Round.
Yeah, like a week, right?
Yeah, a week of battery life. Really, when we're talking about fast charging, even when if I wake up one morning and the Pebble says I'm freaking out, I'm at 20% power, I'm low on power.
Yep.
I can plug it in, take a shower, put the watch on, and have enough power for the next day and a half.
Well, now the Apple Watch is super fast too. Have you charged? Do you have an Apple Watch?
I don't have an Apple Watch.
Okay, well, I find that it's practically the same. Like I'll be down low. I'll charge it for maybe an hour or two, and it'll be at 100%. And I'm pretty impressed because that's inductive charging.
True, and an hour or two, but there's a big difference between 15 minutes of charging and an hour or two. I think when people are freaking out in the morning and they only have so much time for their day to get ready, 15 minutes, getting the most out of that time is going to be really valuable.
That's true. No doubt. Pebble has miles and miles of more battery life.
Pebble still doesn't work great on iPhone and iOS, but a new feature it did get for both Android and iOS is health support, health tracking. So the new Pebble Time and the Pebble Time Steel, and I believe the Round, will track your steps and do sleep monitoring and have your all the information actually that ties into Apple Health Kit.
That's interesting.
So all the info gets tied together.
Apple Watch isn't going to be doing any sleep monitoring because they need that charge time.
They need that charge time. Yeah. I'm still liking the Pebble. I still wish it did more on iOS.
Yeah. I still like the interface. Actually, I prefer the interface to the Apple Watch because it's my kind of vector graphic
The vector graphic stuff,
style.
it's very cute.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that you could just drop those frames or have the ability to turn off the animation. I don't know if the animation is hiding loading
Yeah, exactly.
behind it.
Yeah.
But if I could cut the animation or just have it, give me a delay,
Yeah.
then that maybe even would conserve a little bit more power. They're nice.
People said the same thing about transitions on the iPhone too when they came out with the new OS last year, where transitions between screens where everything zooms in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And they sped those up a little bit, but the fact that they didn't speed them up more than that led me to think the same thing. Maybe that it's just hiding loading.
Another product we talked about last week and we're not enthusiastic about was the Pixel C. This is Google's new Android tablet/laptop productivity tablet running NVIDIA Tegra, designed by the Pixel team, which is why it's under the Pixel brand. Now, this is a weird product. The reviews weren't great on it, and Ars Technica reported this week that their speculation is that the Pixel C originally was supposed to run Chrome OS or a hybrid version of Android and Chrome OS, something that was canned, and so they needed to shoehorn an OS on there. They got Android on there, and everyone is not happy with it. Interesting read. Did you see Nintendo's touchscreen controller patent?
Yeah.
Nope.
So Nintendo, their next console is going to be the NX. And gamers out there are eager to see what they're going to do differently.
Yeah.
Nintendo, it seems like with every console they make, since the Wii, they do something innovative with the controller.
What do you mean since the Wii?
The Wii was a big deal.
Yeah.
I guess 3DS was a big deal in terms of interface for they're known for doing something different.
Yeah.
While PlayStation,
Every now and then,
and Microsoft,
see, like the N64 to the GameCube, they were kind of the same, right? One was more powerful, it was like twice the power.
Yes.
The Wii, then the Wii U, kind of the same. So, but every now and then we get something completely out of left field.
right? And even the N64 did something. Having that thumbstick and the N64 controller,
no doubt.
the trigger on the bottom,
That was a big one,
right? That's a big deal.
But NES to Super NES, I mean, a lot more bits, a couple more buttons,
Shoulder buttons.
4 more buttons.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the same thing.
Right. More a beefier version.
Right.
Just like N64 to GameCube, beefier version, moving finally to disc. Different format.
I'm excited because they're saying this is something different.
Right. And Wii, absolutely something different. 3DS, something different. Or DS, something different. Right. 3DS, successful.
Yep.
Wii U, maybe not as successful as they would have hoped, but definitely tried something different with the Wii U controller. And the NX, people are wondering, are they going to also do something different? Nintendo likes touch, and this patent shows a gamepad that you would hold it like you would a PlayStation or Xbox controller, but there's a screen in the middle, a touch screen in the middle. Kind of reminds me of what the original Steam Link controller or the Steam controller was going to be, with a touchscreen in the center, except in the patent it shows the entire top surface is a touchscreen.
Yeah.
Huh. This is supposed to be the NX controller, perhaps?
This is maybe the
Maybe.
NX controller based on a patent.
I don't know.
I think for this to work,
What is it?
the thing they would have to do is get haptic feedback right on the controllers.
So you can feel where the thumb pads are?
So you can feel. I think that if they released the controller where ergonomically you hold it the way you would a PlayStation controller, meaning you have the two kind of grips on the side, but the whole surface, the top surface of that controller was touchscreen. The only way that that would be an ergonomic, iPhone basically, right? An ergonomic touchscreen iPhone. But the way that would differentiate itself is if they figured out true haptic feedback for touching that screen.
Whatever happened to there was that tech a while ago, a few years ago, they had demoed where when you touch the surface of the screen, it actually raises up.
It bubbles up.
Yeah.
It was so bad. Now, it only bubbled up in a specific place
Oh,
where
did
the
it?
keyboard was. It wasn't It wasn't like T1000
Yeah.
where the bubbles could move.
That's what I'm
and
waiting
push
for.
you back. Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. Actually, Disney Research has some good research into haptic screens.
They come
And-
out with crazy stuff.
And their applications of it actually is for accessibility and education, like Braille,
Yeah.
simulating Braille, than it is for entertainment. But it's something that could actually be applied there. So I'm hoping that Nintendo surprises us with something interesting. And I think haptic feedback would be a really cool thing. You know, it would be ergonomically something that would appeal to the quote-unquote core gamers, but also have a novel tech that would make it more accessible. The big win with the Wii was the technology was the right jump, but the Wii controller, the waggle stick was so accessible. It was easy for anyone to pick up and play.
Yep.
The Wii U doesn't do that. The Wii U is just actually. I think the Wii U controller is harder for someone who isn't accustomed to playing games to pick up and play.
Well,
They
you're
don't
talking,
know
you're talking
if-
about the touchscreen controller, right? The big one.
Yeah.
But the problem is nothing used it. I mean, effectively until Mario Maker,
Right.
and that's so late in the product cycle.
Yeah.
Do you think that Nintendo has to have some kind of VR component to compete
No,
with this next platform?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
So there were rumors about so many of their platforms having a VR component ever since the Virtual Boy. Like, people have always wondered, when are they going to come back to it? Especially now that it actually has some traction, and Sony is well on the way to having Move to market, and there's all these PC components. And Microsoft with HoloLens, I would imagine that they're thinking about VR too with whatever's coming next after the Xbox One. I would kind of wish that Nintendo would do it, because I think they make some of the cutest, most fun games. But maybe you're right, and maybe they're going to be cautious this time, and not take the that road that everyone else is driving on.
You know, Nintendo had a 100-year plan when the company first started. Has anyone looked at that plan and seen how it diverged? And
Like in the 19th century?
Nintendo, yeah.
Yeah, I
Nintendo-
know, but
When they made playing cards,
mm-hmm.
they had 100, or maybe not then, but when they started doing electronics, they had a 100-year roadmap for a company.
A
Really?
53 card deck.
No. Jeremy, you still use Rdio?
No. Why would I use audio?
Well, you can't. You won't be able to use Rdio.
Oh yeah.
Come next Tuesday,
No, it's gone.
December 22nd, Pandora is shuttering Rdio, the service for subscribers. Pandora also just maybe coincidentally launched a new streaming a way to create radio stations. They call it Thumbprint Radio. Pandora has the thumbs up, thumbs down was what they did for their music curation. You thumbs up the songs you like, and then they would feed back into their database and generate playlists, radio stations, ostensibly, to play back. And now they have new radio stations, personalized stations inspired by your thumbs up. So just taking that data as opposed to.
All right.
So this is actually more akin to the Last.fm model, where it's less about their music genome and that database and more about user curation. And
And do you suspect that they will just offer a second price tier for, selective music while listening?
They do.
Pandora already offers an audio-like service?
Pandora, for the longest time, offered way back in 2006 or 7, offered a pay to listen to whatever you want, whenever you want.
Full albums.
Full albums,
Like an
everything.
Apple Music-like catalog.
Yeah,
In 2006?
yeah,
What?
yeah.
Wow.
They just didn't have, one, there were no apps, so it was all web-based.
Uh-huh.
2,
What about now, though? Do they still offer that? And did they just buy the user base with audio?
I think, well, they bought some of that tech. I think they needed the interface. Is what they needed. They started with free and then tried to get people to pay. It was more difficult to build a business model out of that. Plus, for their free listeners, they're going to pay more. The royalties actually just changed this week. There's a copyright tribunal of I think like 3 people who decide what the rates are. And as of this past week, their per song rate for people listening with the radio, which is the same as what the other streaming stations do, like Slacker, it's 0.0014 cents per song. So every 100 songs you listen to, Pandora has to pay 14 cents for that. But that aggregates, I mean, that's a lot of money over a long period of time. Well, that rate goes up 20% to 17 cents per 100 songs played, a 20% increase, and it's going to be effective in 2016, and then may also go up based on inflation.
All right. So more ads probably, and
More ads.
which is just a higher incentive for people to go for the paid plan.
Yep. I think that whole streaming system, the whole licensing, the broad flat rate, as opposed to working directly with these labels, is going to go away eventually. It's going to get way too expensive. Speaking of streaming services, did you hear about Netflix wanting to, or actually re-encoding its entire library?
This is pretty cool. Yeah.
No, for what, 4K?
No, I wish. So Netflix encodes all of the footage, all of the streams. Like they just like Pandora bought CDs and ripped their CDs and put them at whatever it was. I think 160 CBR back then. The codecs get better over time, and the content doesn't all need the same bitrate. Netflix, the way it works now, is your stream quality increases and decreases based on your bandwidth. So if you're streaming over a mobile device or on desktop or over Wi-Fi, and suddenly your data starts, someone's uploading something or downloading something on the router, then Netflix will give you a lower bitrate version, and they have these, I think, 5 tiers or so of resolution and quality. Well, Netflix just realized that a lot of their content doesn't need to be encoded, even at 1080p at high bit rates, like animation. If you take SpongeBob SquarePants at 1080p and encode it at, I think the max bit rate is 58 kilobits per second. 5.8 megabits per second.
This is
5,800 kilobits per second. The same bit rate for animated film and a high action film, where there's a lot of noise, explosions, and unpredictable events, it's not going to look the same. And so they've developed algorithms with schools, I think with USC, to put the different content, analyze it, and put it in different categories so they can be encoded at different bit rates.
It's smart.
And they think overall it will save about 20% of their data use.
Okay.
Which is good. That doesn't address the problem of the bigger issue of our infrastructure being crap and our pipes just needing to get better.
Yeah.
Well, but that's happening. Slowly but surely, that is happening.
I mean, if they're telling me that their solution for crappier streaming is to make the videos look crappier.
Well, but it's no. What? Who?
Well, Netflix.
Netflix?
Yeah.
They're not going to look crappier.
They say
article,
they won't look crappier.
In first paragraph says that the company had a contest, Norm, and you could have won a bottle of champagne if you could point out the difference between the new encoding and the old one.
What they need is a Pepsi challenge.
Yeah.
They go to malls and have 2 screens and stream Orange is the New Black or House of Cards at 5.8 megabits and one at 3.4 megabits and ask people if they can point the difference.
I think it's cool that Netflix has their own codec engineers. That's neat. I don't know.
mean,
This sounds good to me. I mean,
they're spending a lot of engineering time resources addressing this hopefully temporary problem of bandwidth being limited. And
it's always going to be a cost to them. Even if costs are going down, it's to their benefit too, because they have to pay for those the upstream.
Absolutely. I mean, but the frontier isn't making our videos look the same at lower bit rates. The frontier should be how to encode higher quality and 4K video and HDR video and higher frame rate video, and that's what I want.
Here.
Right?
Yes.
Like that's engineering resources that we need, and Netflix is forced to work on this stuff because we have crappy internet in the United States.
Well, hopefully they. I don't know. I mean, that'd be a really interesting, story if you could get inside Netflix and find out their encoding practices. I mean, I'd like to think that they have everything uncompressed in some ripped file somewhere on some massive server that no one has access to, so they can just go back and press a button when they want to re-encode things.
Boy, it's a massive endeavor.
Yeah.
I mean, they're using the same servers. I don't know if they use AWS, but the same servers to distribute on at the low peak hours. That's when they'll use those same servers to encode. And so it's a massive engineering task. I mean, think about how many movies you might have on your NAS box, and think about having to re-encode all of them in multiple and analyze them and categorize them and then re-encode them in multiple formats.
Hey,
That's crazy.
Netflix has to think ahead.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what I do at home, though. I ripped after being burned by the infamous Sony A-Track codec. When I re-ripped all my CDs, I re-ripped them all to FLAC,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just keep that database, and I can re-rip from them anytime I want.
If you invested in Netflix a year ago, you'd have doubled your money by now.
Wow.
How about that?
Don't play that game. That's not a wise move, Jeremy. you deserve those Star Wars spoilers.
Yeah.
You know, one of the problems of not being online in the past 2 days, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what has happened in the past 2 days.
I don't either.
Has any?
You've got the wrong guys on there.
My Ouija board, it tried to tell me, but I shut it down every time.
Oh my goodness. Let's do a quick ad read and then let's jump to my favorite segment of the show. But hey guys out there, this week's episode of This Is Only a Test is also sponsored by Ventured. If you enjoyed today's episode, you might want to check out another awesome podcast called Ventured. It's a series produced by the iconic venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins, who has invested in Google, Amazon, Twitter, and Uber. This Ventured podcast takes a close look at some of the fastest growing tech trends in Silicon Valley, as well as behind the scenes interviews with tech giants from companies like Netflix and Google. The podcast episodes cover topics on pressing business and technology issues and the implications in our lives. Some of their conversation topics include the inside story of how Uber built a global business, how Google thinks about hiring, management, and culture, how cyber hacking is the new global battlefield, and even practical topics for entrepreneurs like tips for surviving tech bubbles. Check them out on iTunes or SoundCloud by searching Ventured, and thank them this week for sponsoring This Is Only a Test. And now it's time for the VR Minute, virtual reality this week.
I like this one.
We got a
great.
new,
I like
yeah,
that.
good new one. That was made by Eric Lott. He
Nice job, Eric.
sent us an email, and he actually will be playing another one of his sound cues later on. But great, I love that. I love that he did exactly what I mimed before with the do part.
Yep,
Anyway,
yep. And it's got an early days kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Which we're in.
Perfect. Virtual reality this week. Oculus announced their next exclusive game, The Climb. This is made by Crytek, and it's a VR game that simulates extreme rock climbing. Stay with me here. Crytek makes it, so it looks good, but it's a very simple mechanic. It's not an action game. This is a game where you're scaling, you're doing rock climbing, in Southeast Asia, around the world, grabbing on the holds. And the demo I tried on it with it actually used the Xbox One controller and not the Oculus Touch controllers.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
Now, it's a game that they're developing simultaneously for Oculus Touch, but I think this is they're really pushing so hard the idea that this game would be fun with an Xbox One controller.
I don't think so.
Well, it worked.
Okay.
It worked with the Xbox One controller, so I'll give them that.
So, with the touch controllers, your hands are the controllers.
Yeah,
and you're climbing a mountain, right? You have to get your hand in the right spot, grab it, and
Exactly.
pull yourself up. It looks to me like there's even some moves where you do jumping, so you pull quickly.
Yes.
And imagine let go and then grab the next ledge.
That's right.
Looks very cool.
That looks very fun.
How's that work with the gamepad?
With the gamepad, you're head looking, and when you move your head. So their theory is that when people climb, where they reach out with their hand is actually their head naturally moves in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked, is this something that you could do with Gear VR? Could rotational tracking work with this game? And they said, no, it's actually your head leans in, and positional tracking helps. So you move, you see the next grip with your hand. Let's say it's to the right, and you move your head, and there's a floating hand above you to your right, and then the hand animation changes to show that's in the grabbing motion once you're hovered above the grip, and then you press the trigger on the Xbox controller, and that grabs you there, and then you go looking around, because the gameplay isn't just about the grips, it's isn't just about the actual gripping motion. It's about looking for where those grips are, which I guess is a big part of rock climbing, because you have to find, okay, where is my next handhold?
Yeah.
Where am I gonna? Should I shift hands here? And so there are other mechanics like you need to chalk your hand from time to time, and you can't jump too quickly, and or else you'll get too excited. Your hands will start sweating, and you'll get more slippery.
So I want to know, with this being VR, when you fall, does it follow you the whole way down to the ground?
No, it doesn't, not all the way down. You're standing when you're playing this, and I guess technically you could play it while sitting with the Xbox controller, or even sitting with the touch controllers. But the demo, when I tried it, you're standing, and if you fell, you'd fall for maybe 10, 15 feet. The screw would go white, and then reload to where you were last. Because as immersive, well, you're also standing, and as immersive as they want it to be, it's a game. They want it to be a comfortable experience.
Yeah.
So this really is a good example of a game where, they sacrifice some immersion because for necessity, because you can't actually fall. You're not playing on the edge of a cliff. You're standing up, but they sacrifice some of that for comfort, and they want to make it the mechanic fun as just a game.
You played it,
yes,
and you fell. I imagine. Do you think some people will fall over in real life at that point?
Not the parts where you miss a grip and fall, but the points where you're bracing your body to jump and maybe jump from one ledge to the other and fall. That felt a little more immersive, and you may maybe not actually fall down, but your head, I lost balance once when playing that.
And you're pretty experienced with VR.
So the thing that I want to do is play this while sitting on a swing.
Good God.
Where my feet are off the ground, where I feel like I'm in a harness,
Right.
a climbing harness, where my body movements, move my body. My arm movements will and where if I, where my feet feel like they're dangling, because then that I think would increase the level of immersion. I asked them if they ever had tested that, and they said they hadn't because they were just going for comfort.
Is it going to support the Vive controllers?
No, this is Oculus exclusive.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they are doing I think they're doing a PlayStation VR, the Return to Dinosaur Island, which has similar mechanics with the ropes and stuff. But this one is purely the climb. And my other hope for this game is that it's not just natural environments that you're climbing, that they also take you to urban environments, like climbing skyscrapers.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Or doing like those Russian kids who climb the top of like radio towers.
Oh, that would be
and
fun.
walk off to the ledge.
Crazy.
Like that would be cool in VR. And I think this game could be suited for that.
Absolutely.
Palmer Luckey has been pretty active on the Oculus Reddit forums.
What does he have to say?
Two things I thought that were interesting. One, someone asked, had they tried putting the Steam controller touchpads, the actuated touchpad, on top of the Oculus Touch controller?
Wait, what?
So right now, one of the big advantages I think of the Vive in the touch controller, in its HTC Vive controller, the Steam VR controller, is that it uses that same haptic feedback trackpad.
Yeah.
For the thumbs, which you can use in Tilt Brush for selecting colors, and it's another one-to-one positional control, positional tracking, because it's not tracking the position of your thumb, but your thumb touching a specific point on the touchpad, it actually gives enough information that you have another point of simulation.
Yep.
Right. Oculus Touch doesn't do that, but there are sensors that let the controller know whether your thumb is thumbs upping or thumbs down, right, moving. And someone on Reddit asked Palmer, well, have you tried putting the actual actuated touchpad from the Steam controller on top of the Half Moon Bay prototype, the Oculus Touch controller? And he said, yes, they had. It's not what they're going to do eventually, but they had tried it, which I thought was interesting. Palmer also said that they had tried, I think he tweeted this, they had tried room-scale Oculus tracking with 4 cameras, 4 of their Constellation tracker cameras. And you still have some of the occlusion problems, but it worked great. And this is something they tried a long time ago. This in itself isn't surprising, but it is surprising that they, Oculus is a very practical company. I think that's what we're finding in both releasing the Xbox One controller, in the way that a lot of their positionally tracked games are going to be forward-facing games, not necessarily room-scale games. They're practical in the sense that they're thinking about what the majority of their users, what the setups of their users are going to be, not going for the kitchen sink, the holodeck immediately, and giving something that's going to be compelling whether you're for most users, so that developers make games for that type of experience. Your sitting experience, your standing at the desk experience, not necessarily your empty 15-foot by 15-foot room experience. I'm not surprised at all that Oculus Touch and that tracking works in room scale, and it's almost pointless to argue whether that's better at room scale than HTC Vive and Steam VR's the Lighthouse system is at room scale, because it's pointless because the games are going to be what the games are going to be. And Oculus is spending a ton of money on making the games work for their platform. So even if it ends up being that Lighthouse technically can work better in this scenario and that, or these few scenarios, the games not being there and the user base not being there is going to push VR in the favor of Oculus.
I see some VR news here that you don't have written down.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it is the most important news of the week.
Oh, please.
The Pinball Arcade will support VR in 2016.
What's the Pinball Arcade?
What? It's the Pinball Arcade. It's a game that's available on every platform under the sun, including iOS and all the platforms, and Steam, where you can play tons of classic pinball games. So they've released them in seasons, and you can buy them in seasons. I think there's like 40 tables by now. They've had Kickstarters for the Addams Family and Star Trek Next Generation, some expensive licenses that they wouldn't have been able to make without a little more money. And they're pinball simulations of classic games, of real games, and they get all the original assets. They take actual pinball games and they scan them into the computer. Cool. And they take them apart and they scan all the components. So anyway, they've been doing this for a few years. It's pretty good, and it's a pretty good package. And they'd announced it. Somebody hacked in VR support last year at some point, like for the DK1, I want to say. Maybe it was DK2. Anyway, I guess that caught their attention. They probably tried it. They said, we got to do this for real. And they're doing it for real next year. That's great news for me, because I got to tell you, I had my best game of Attack from Mars in their software when I tried it in VR.
Wow.
Because leaning is a part of pinball. You got to get that trajectory. You got to see, what is that ball going to go down the middle, and if so, should I nudge it? And you get that by moving around
without even a virtual laser beam. Like, it was accurate enough where you could positionally move in the DK2 in that resolution, and it actually affected your play.
Well, the higher resolution, the better, because those tables are a bit away from you.
That's right. I mean, do you need to lean into the table?
A little bit. You can lean a little bit into the table, but the moving around of your head is a key component that people don't really think about when it comes to pinball. And the fact that it's coming to VR, I think it's going to be good.
Interesting. Another bit of VR news, MIT Technology Review reported their visit to the Void. And this is one of the first VR laser tag centers, basically.
Yeah. I'm surprised you guys haven't done a story on this already.
Well, I want to go.
Yeah.
We want to go, and they're not ready yet.
But they're allowing press to see it. You just can't take a video camera inside.
Wow. They took photos, and we want to take video because we want to show people what it is.
Yeah.
So the Void it's located in, I think, outside Salt Lake City, and they have this large installation. It's not fully built out yet, but they're building their own custom headsets, and they're building basically like laser tag sessions. The idea is to sell real-world virtual reality, where you go to a place and you pay, I think, $30, and then you get like 20 minutes of VR time. In some predetermined scenarios, and there are going to be a bunch of them. So
there's real-world structures in this room that you don't see because you're wearing VR headsets.
Right.
But there are walls and obstacles and corridors and all of those...
elevators even.
Yes, that sounds really interesting. That was smart.
Their research, I think the advantage of this, so you can ask yourself, why not just buy a HTC Vive, get the game, and play it in a large empty room? What's the difference? And I think the potential advantage of the Void and other places that are going to be like it is, one, they're developing fully wireless systems. It was a lot like that virtuality system that we demoed at SwissNext, where the computer and the graphics card and everything was running a DK2 at the time, but it's all on a backpack, including the battery.
Yeah.
And users wear the backpack. And so the Void, you're wearing a backpack, and that limits your play time to your 20 minutes, which is the amount of time they have these sessions for, these adventure sessions. But also they're tying into the story. So like the backpack you're wearing in the real world then translates to the armor you're wearing in the game.
That's interesting.
But it's all about those translations from real world objects like walls to the game. And when they control both the software and the real world objects and their knowledge of where those real world objects are, that adds a tremendous amount of presence.
Yeah, you could make an argument that this is actually a full-blown augmented reality. Although it's just a complete skinning of the real world. There's nothing left for you to actually see.
And that's where the convergence of the AR and VR seems really interesting. The things that they're tracking in the real world, just like in the virtuality demo where Will and I tried, and we had the torch we were moving around, and the torch was positionally tracked, and there was the sarcophagus, the big box that was positionally tracked. What we're finding out is that it's not just your body that you want positionally tracked in virtual reality. Every additional point of the real world, and not just physical objects, but sensations that are tracked that get translated into a virtual environment, and maybe added with flare added, skinned and textured, and with particle effects, that enhances the experience as well. So in the Void, one of the experiences is, for example, exploring a tomb. And so in the demo from the MIT Technology Reviews report, the reporter went down a corridor, touched the walls. It looked like your Indiana Jones style wall. And then there actually was a flame, and the Void, the center, had a heater there. And so you can feel some heat. And so that, again, is a sensation that is mapped from real world to virtual world. And then they would have, they were like, you could see a waterfall, and they would blow some mist and some stuff like that. So these are all like things that we may take for granted, or we may think that, they're party tricks, but they actually add a lot to the virtual experience. The fact that they can simulate an elevator
and it doesn't
by just
have
shaking
to,
the ground
right.
a little bit. We've been on those rides like at Disneyland, like Star Tours is just like that. Just a little bit of motion, shift and acceleration. When it's mapped perfectly, it's like virtual reality.
And
Haptic feedback.
When all of the visuals are done in virtual reality, the actual space can look like a warehouse too. That's kind of interesting.
It can look like a Febreze commercial.
They don't have to spend a whole lot of money on making that heater look any better than a space heater.
That's
as
right.
long as they have the holodeck grid up, I'll be happy.
They have to paint yellow lines, paint it black with yellow lines, and nerds are going to be happy.
Oh yeah.
But the other cool thing is they can reconfigure the walls. So you can develop it so, the Void knows that they have 5 different, just like go-kart. When you go go-karting, you have like 3 different track configurations. And they can say, today we're going to run configuration A, and it's going to be more open environment, or this one's going to be more walled environment. But the fact that you can reskin the same physical configuration, but your brain thinks that it's a completely different experience because it's reskinned and because you're accused and because it's like green screen where you have infinite, you can see into the distance. That's actually a huge, powerful part of VR, where it's all what it's really doing is just remapping and taking away the walls.
Totally.
We'll end up with a room that just has like mechanized walls. That you just stay within this 20 by 20 square and it just keeps remapping the walls. So
they do this misdirection where they have you walk in a slight curve too, where your brain thinks you're going straight, and they keep you within a confined space.
Yeah.
I mean, they really seem like they figured a lot of things out early. So I can't wait to try it. I would make the drive to Salt Lake with you guys to try that out.
Road trip to Salt Lake.
Yeah.
It's only 14 hours.
Let's do it.
You can do it. We can do a 14-hour road trip, sleep overnight, try the Void, and come back and have our minds blown. I'm still a little skeptical of their VR system. I think they're touting a lot with what they have, wider field of view than Oculus and stuff like that. But I think that's the fidelity of their headset isn't going to be the big selling point, and it can be made up for with how much real world environment gets put into the world. Have you guys seen that roller coaster in Germany?
Oh God, that looks like a horrible idea.
It's the same thing, and it apparently works great. So the idea is that it's not a it's not a like a roller coaster. It's one of those train rides, like a kid
yeah.
roller coasters. You have a few bumps. Like I don't know what the equivalent would be at Disneyland. It's definitely not like not the Matterhorn. It's more of the Disney train ride, right? Like I don't know what the lowest key train ride is in Disneyland.
Yeah.
But it's at this theme park in Germany that wanted to revamp its ride without having to build a new ride, and so they hired software and they hired graphics designers to make a VR ride.
They hired software?
Well, they hired software engineers.
You sound like Donald Trump.
Yeah. They hired software and closed the internet.
Yeah.
they made software and they designed a game basically that works along the track of their ride. And the attendees will put on Gear VR headsets and they'll get a remapped virtual ride.
How does that work? Because that's not positionally tracked, and it doesn't know where you are in that roller coaster.
But it does because they know, because the roller coaster is fixed.
Uh-huh.
So imagine this: you put a sensor on the roller coaster, right? It tracks the roller coaster in real time position the one time. You have that data map set, and then you design a on rails
That lasts that length
360
of time.
video experience that perfectly maps to the roller coaster.
There's got to be some additional hardware that they use then, right?
No, you only need to track it the once. Think of when you're watching a video, essentially,
Yeah.
a 360 video, but rendered. And when you're wearing the headset, like all they need to do is make sure that when the roller coaster starts, the player starts.
It's queued up.
It's queued up.
But then
Yeah.
each player also has to know which car he's in.
Right. So maybe there's a trigger system when they pass the line. That's when it starts.
Okay.
They just have the time to starting. Because you're right. The beginning of the ride and the back of the ride
Yeah.
are going to be in different points in the ride. So the back of the ride needs to start a little later.
Yeah.
That's how you perfectly map it.
Right.
But what they're able to do then is turn a pretty mundane, a train ride into you flying a dragon and have it perfectly mapped.
Yeah. All right. It just seems like rife for motion sickness.
If they didn't time it perfectly, and if the motion of the virtual dragon you're riding isn't perfectly, that bump isn't mapped to, and then the dragon dips down, isn't mapped to where the roller coaster dips down just a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's not a crazy roller coaster. We're not doing giant loops. It's really just small bumps and turns. But I think that's a fantastic idea.
I'm just coming off of Universal Studios where I went last weekend, and all their rides are these motion simulator rides like Star Tours, and I just can't deal with them. I don't like them. They make me sick. I like a real roller coaster. There's a difference. And, it reminds me of VR sickness because there's motion that happens in these motion simulator rides that doesn't correspond to
You're saying in the image.
to my actual physical movement.
Right.
It does not. It's not one to one, and I feel that disconnect.
The acceleration isn't happening perfectly.
Right,
They're
exactly.
shaking. It's not actually spinning around.
But you're kind of convincing me on this dragon ride, though. I might have to try it next time I'm in
doesn't that even
Germany.
make sense, at least theoretically?
I guess so. I just don't see the Gear VR doing it out of the box.
Absolutely. And I don't know if it can do that perfect timing.
Yeah.
But the point is made that they know, having the variable locked down, the movement, the locomotion locked down into a path.
Do we know for a fact that roller coasters are the exact same number of milliseconds every single time around the track? Maybe not, right?
It's true. They can vary in speed. Yeah, you can stop and start.
So maybe you got to stay in sync somehow. It's an interesting engineering problem.
Yeah. MIT Technology Review also were one of the first people to try, and I think the only journalists out there to try the Magic Leap. And I got to revisit that. There's actually a YouTube video I missed, came out earlier this year, of Magic Leap, what they claim to be filming through the actual glasses. So this wasn't the Magic Leap simulated, that video with the monsters coming out of the walls, which we all thought was pretty outrageous. But this is what they claim to be, putting a camera with the focus up close, and they do shift focus a little bit, putting it up to a pair of glasses and showing what you see in the real world in their augmented reality solution. And the big thing being wide field of view, not having the box that HoloLens has around its augmented reality, but having it all the way and placed anywhere in the world, and then also some interaction with the real world. like with occlusion, hiding behind tables, and it looked really good. It looked really, really good.
How opaque were the images?
Pretty. They're glowy.
Mm-hmm.
They're opaque, but they're glowy, but they're opaque but glowy.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like is luminosity made up
Yeah.
for translucency?
Huh. I don't know. A lot of money, a lot of hype behind this thing.
Yeah. I think what is it? Google spent $500 million invested in it.
No announcement of when they're going to even announce it, right? I mean, it's like still.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's gonna be the Beyonce album drop.
You think?
They'll be like Magic Leap, bam, pre-order it today. We're ready to ship 1 million units. Change the world.
Okay.
Sign me up. User number 0007. Jesse Schell, who is a VR developer, longtime VR researcher, worked at, I believe, Disney Research as an Imagineer for the VR stuff, and now runs Schell Games, and they're the ones who are making No, I Expect You to Die, the VR game.
Oh, it's a good one.
Yeah. He did a talk at a VR intelligence conference, VRX, last week that I think everyone should watch if you're interested in virtual reality. And he's really funny, really, like, he has a lot of insight, but he makes these 40 predictions for augmented reality and virtual reality over the next 10 years. And I think they're all pretty much on point.
Great.
Would you like to go through a few of those?
Let's hear it.
Well, there's some market research stuff. So he talks about next year in 2016, he thinks that 8 million VR headsets will be sold.
Okay. I'd say that's conservative.
You think that's conservative?
I do.
think that's optimistic.
Dude, we're talking about like 3 major platforms.
True. I think what's more insightful is that the majority of those will be PlayStation VR headsets.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think, as much press as Oculus and Steam is getting in the enthusiast community, PlayStation is actually where most people in the broader VR world.
They're certainly going to have the most refined and ready to play games. I would think, just because they're a gaming platform.
Right. He also predicts that after next year, it's going to double every year.
Okay.
Double. Well, that seems like an appropriate growth rate if you talk about
For 10 years.
For 10 years. He thinks that for mobile desktop, it would be a ratio of 4-to-1 in 10 years.
Look at the demand for the Gear VR. Like they did not anticipate what they got.
Well, they also haven't said supply.
They what?
They haven't told us what the supply has been like.
I guess that's true, but it just seems like
it's rolling out slowly to countries. And when we're talking about demand, when you say look at the demand, you're talking about really the
how out of stock
the Reddit Oculus forms.
No, I'm
too.
talking about where can you buy it? Like it was out of stock everywhere.
Right. And that ties into the whole PlayStation thing, because a lot of people have PlayStations, and buying PSVR will be just an accessory for them.
Right.
For Gear VR, a lot of people have Samsung phones. Buying Gear VR, $100 accessory. It's not that. It's a kind of a no-brainer of a purchase if you have a Note 5 or if you have a GS6. He thinks that there will be 50 different headsets at CES 2017.
Oh my gosh.
50 different headsets.
Oh no, it's the new 3D printer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say that's an informed prediction on his part, and I don't know. Like, there were a dozen headsets last year, and like the 3D head stuff, and a lot of bad stuff, and a lot of VR accessories for sure. But to say there will be 50 headsets, if it's true, that's going to be terrible for the consumer. So confusing.
Yeah.
And just like the 3D printers, there'll be a lot of crap.
Yeah, absolutely. He says
it's better than one, though. You have to admit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Competition is good.
Right. But I mean, so much vaporware out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of promises on Kickstarter. Like things like Fove, eye tracking, and everyone has their different paths. The problem is that, I think VR developers are sharing their information, their lessons learned, and everyone wants to do that. But on the hardware side, people are keeping those things close to their chests because they feel like that's how they're going to get their competitive advantage over the dominant players, Oculus, Steam VR, PlayStation, in the next 3 to 5 years, doing something that, whether it's Starbreeze or Fove, that the Oculus doesn't. because then they want to own the platform and then sell their games
Yeah.
for their systems. That's the fragmentation that we're afraid of. Jesse says, through 2018, overheating with VR phones will still be a problem, and freezing them will be common.
Freezing them?
Freezing them.
Putting it in the freezer before you use VR?
Active cooling for phone VR headsets.
Oh, yeah.
People already wear it with Gear VR, which does still have an overheating problem. Put fans in front of their faces and run Gear VR, and it helps. I could see third-party accessories with liquid cooling mounted, self-contained liquid cooling solutions on Gear VR and mobile phone headsets.
Yeah, they're going to be pushing those processors for sure. Plus, I mean, what does he say about resolution? Because that's where a lot of horsepower is going to be needed.
Yeah. Another prediction, he thinks that Microsoft will announce VR for the Xbox One in 2018. Now, regardless of whether Microsoft does or not, you think that's too late?
Yes? What? 2018?
Yeah.
That's good. No, I'd say he's off.
You think 2017?
Yes. If not next year. They have to
Wow.
get on this game.
I think next year, unless they've been secretly working on something, and they're
Word was they were working on something years ago.
VR, not AR.
Yes.
Not HoloLens.
Yes.
Interesting. I mean, developers would know, and there have been no rumblings.
Right? No, it's true.
His next prediction, an asymmetric party game will be a top 10 VR game by the end of 2017. I think 2016. I think one of the best VR experiences next year will be an asymmetrical party game on PlayStation VR.
Asymmetrical meanings. You
Yes,
don't
explain that.
Meaning that people on the couch will play something different than what the person with the headset plays.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But they'll be playing the same game.
Because
from different
asymmetrical
perspective.
in mobile, that means you don't have to play in real time.
No, that's asynchronous.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Asynchronous means you don't have to play at the same time temporally.
Right.
Asymmetrical means that on one side of the board, the other side of the board are different experiences.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
And so that's Wii U. Wii U is an asymmetrical experience, and almost you could say a pretty safe to say a failed attempt at an asymmetrical couch gaming experience. Because most of the time, if you're playing with a Wii U controller, you're still looking at the same thing. You're playing Mario Kart the same way that everyone else is playing in the room. But VR,
Yeah.
asymmetrical, and we've tried an asymmetrical VR game.
Keep talking and no one explodes.
That's one. Another one is the dinosaur game on PSVR, where the monsters are a person wearing the
Oh,
VR
right.
goggles is playing the monster,
Yeah.
and everyone else on the screen is shooting the monster. I think those type of party games are going to be huge. And if we're talking about the majority of VR users being on PSVR next year, I think those are going to be the experiences that get people playing, like the Wii bowling.
I don't
for
know,
VR.
man. I think you're right. It's going to be a ton of fun. But if a party game is going to be the big VR app of the year,
Now, big just means
I
more
don't-
successful.
well, I don't think that's going to speak very well of the VR success. You know, I think in order to have a killer app that is like the VR platform's Doom or whatever that game is that people will always associate with it.
Doom meaning the title Doom, not Doom as in a failure.
Right, thank you. It's gotta be something that people can play on their own at home. Maybe it's multiplayer online.
I think you're underestimating the power of social, and not just social VR in the sense that everyone's wearing a headset and communicating with each other.
I guess
but
there's Rock Band.
The Wii bowling and the Rock Band experience. Not Rock Band VR.
Yeah,
But what
right.
Rock Band did for the living room and what Wii bowling did for the living room, I think VR is going to have to tap into that to have a measure of success. On the set-top box side.
Yeah.
His next prediction: Madden will have a VR edition in 2018.
Oh,
I believe it.
okay.
Absolutely believe it.
Did I hear a rumor that somebody did a VR Discs of Tron? Because I would play the crap out of that.
So Palmer Luckey, another thing I forgot to mention, he tweeted, "I fight for the users."
Yeah, I saw that.
What does that
was good.
mean? Is he hinting at Tron game? I know you hope and so
Oh,
want
yeah,
it to be.
you hope.
Yeah, Discs of Tron, one of my all-time favorites.
Little segue, or not segue, a little tangent. I was playing Johnny Mnemonic Pinball. Little known, one of these games that is a great game based on a poor movie. There's many of these examples. And I beat it. And when you win that game, the master control program from Tron comes up on the display. And he spins around and he says,
MCP.
"You are the master of Power Down." And I said, "Well, that's it. I love this game."
And you never beat it. And that's
No.
also the game that was modded to be the Matrix.
It was. That's
To be
right.
a Matrix pinball game.
Yeah,
I saw that at California Extreme.
that's right.
That's very cool.
Thank you for this, Candace.
You know, I should have played the Inception sound. That would have been more. You're gonna get the Inception sound anyway. There it goes. Interrupting Inception sound. I don't know. We don't need to run through the rest of his predictions, but they all sound pretty on point.
Does he talk about resolution?
He doesn't. It's more about social and cultural trends.
Okay.
Like,
All right.
you know, he thinks that VR porn's gonna be a $1 billion business by 2020. He thinks that there'll be 10 VR reality shows by 2020. Now that's interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting prediction. He thinks by 2018 we'll have a dedicated VR TV channel.
By 2018?
Yeah,
What does that mean, a VR channel?
where I don't know exactly. Maybe
You
like
watch people in
live
goggles.
streaming VR where people tune in and watch, and everyone watches in VR one.
Oh, it's
one
becoming
live stream thing.
Futurama.
Yeah, I mean it's. He thinks that by 2017 every U.S. state fair will have one VR attraction.
Okay.
I can actually see that.
All right.
And by 2020, there will be at least 20 VR roller coasters worldwide. By 2025, bowling with augmented reality will be a thing.
Oh boy. Is this a bright future?
It's kind of weird, depressing,
It does. People on roller coasters wearing goggles,
right?
No.
People in bowling alleys
Yeah.
are wearing also augmented reality goggles.
You know, I think that the fair. I think Futurama did do a gag on virtual skee ball.
Yeah.
I think that happened. Yeah.
Well, I mean, his point is that VR is going to be a gimmick, and state fairs are where what can they bring, in addition to novelty and
Virtual skee
technology,
ball.
to people who are looking for something new that they can't get at home. And for VR institutions and physical places like the Void to succeed, you got to give them something they can't get at home, a setup, and not just the software, but a whole physical experience that you can't get. Anyway, you guys should really watch this.
Is it untested?
I did embed the YouTube link. It's unlisted on YouTube, but I did embed it untested. Just search Jesse Schell. It's Schell, and watch the video. And I think that does it for the VR Minute. Let's end this podcast by talking about some movie trailers. Back to the pop culture. Now, I know, the thing I know for sure about Star Wars The Force Awakens is that we're going to see a lot of blockbuster movie trailers before it.
Oh yeah, did you see that photo of the hard drive?
I did see that.
No.
There's
A projectionist took a photograph of the hard drive that arrived at their theater, and it lists all the movie trailers that are on the disc.
yeah.
Were there some that aren't out yet?
You would know better than I, but
Okay,
I think there are
let's
some
say this.
exclusives.
Is there an X-Men Apocalypse trailer?
Mm-hmm.
So the new X-Men film coming out next year, I suppose, X-Men Apocalypse. First full trailer came out. Looks pretty good. Pretty excited about this. It ends with Professor X in his wheelchair, bald.
Yep.
And apparently that is the same wheelchair that they made for X-Men 2,
Oh, that's
which
cute.
the production had to buy back from a collector
Nice.
for that
Really?
scene, for that shot.
How about that?
Yeah.
And it's directed by Bryan Singer.
Last one was also, so Bryan Singer was directing. He's moving. He did X-Men Days of Future Past.
Mm-hmm.
He jumped on board for that after I think what's the director's name? The previous X-Men director, Matthew Vaughn, director of X-Men First Class, left, and so Bryan Singer said, "F it, I'll
But
do it."
He came back. He did the first one, right?
He did the first two.
First two, yeah.
He did X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and X-Men Apocalypse is supposed to end his X-Men universe or set the stage for a new one. Like everything is
Cool.
like the first class universe. Where X-Men for Apocalypse ends is where like his first X-Men began, and all the time travel and everything will kind of get resolved, hopefully by the end.
A
So
quality director.
it's a lot of mutants. The Quicksilver shot, which was one of the best parts of the last X-Men movie,
Yeah.
despite the ridiculousness of the costume. They have an equally ambitious shot this time around, which took, I think they said 3 weeks to shoot for what's essentially a 35-second bit
Jeez.
in the
Awesome.
movie. Yeah.
I wonder if I'm going to have to do an updated stereo belt.
I don't know. It'll be the 80s this time.
Oh, so yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe.
so maybe he'll have different equipment.
Something.
Yeah.
I noticed that Mystique is in the trailer a lot, but she's in human form the whole time.
Yeah, it's because Jennifer Lawrence is a huge Hollywood power now, and I don't think you pay Jennifer Lawrence $20 million or ever how much
Yep.
you pay to have her in full costume all the time, in full makeup. And one of the things I actually didn't like about the last X-Men movie is the makeup effects. The makeup artists were so proud of how fast they got the makeup process down to, that the application, her Mystique makeup, as opposed to it taking a full, whatever it was, 8 hours to put on the full costume that Rebecca Romaine had to do for original X-Men 1. Jennifer Lawrence only had to be in the chair for like 2 to 3 hours or something. But you can tell the quality is not the same. Like there's a lot of skin tight suit stuff she's wearing as opposed to like full application. I think it's a little bit of a trade off. And having her not in the full Mystique makeup, I think, is disservice to the character a little bit.
Yeah, but it kind of stood out to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Independence Day resurgence.
Haven't seen this.
Wow. So it's been almost 20 years. It will be 20 years next year since Independence Day came out. And the sequel is finally coming out.
I thought that was the worst movie I'd ever seen when I walked out of that movie.
What?
You loved it at the time?
Loved it
Was
at the
this one
time.
of those things where you thought it was campy and you loved it, or
No, I loved it.
Oh, God. You're not alone, man. It's
My generation, I waited. That was Jurassic. That was one of like a Jurassic Park level movie for
oh
me.
my God.
It was such a big deal.
I couldn't believe it.
Independence Day. New movie's come out. Jeff Goldblum's in it. Judd Hirsch is in it.
That's nice.
Bill Pullman's in it. No Will Smith.
He's making a comeback tour though. He's touring with Jazzy Jeff next year.
Really?
Yeah. They've never toured.
The Fresh Prince.
That's right.
Jazzy Jeff.
That's
DJ
right.
Jazzy Jeff.
He's got a new album coming out.
Wow.
Hip hop.
Back to me. He stopped doing music because he was making so much money with movies.
That's right.
And I guess he's still making a lot of money with movies.
Yeah, he's doing all
I
right.
think he's doing all right. Yeah, still needs a little more critical acclaim, though. I thought the ID4, the Resurgence trailer looked pretty great. Brent Spiner's in it.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
At least I think so, in the like credits list. He's not in the trailer.
At least I think so.
He's not in the trailer, but
Yeah.
he's listed in the press release as someone who's
All
coming
right.
back. So I'm happy to see him.
I'm curious to see how that works.
And when I saw Brent Spiner in 1996 on opening weekend for Independence Day, I was like, oh my God. And my mind was blown.
Who's he in Independence Day?
He's the scientist.
He's the scientist that's kept in
Oh,
Area
yeah,
51.
right.
He's-
But
he's
we don't
the-
get a lot of visitors.
He's the inappropriate scientist. Yeah.
It's like, that's Data.
And
oh my God, that's Data.
and he gets smushed up against the glass, and the alien talks through him. So.
Is that bulletproof glass?
Yeah.
No, sir.
It is ridiculous. Yeah. I don't know.
And then finally,
Speaking of data.
we got the Star Trek Beyond trailer. Star Trek directed by Justin Lin, director of Fast and Furious 5 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
4, 5, and 6? Maybe
I'm not-
3, 4, 5, and 6, I believe, actually.
So what'd you think of this? Because you like Fast and the Furious and you like Star Trek.
I love Star Trek, and I like Fast and Furious a lot.
Do they mix well?
So the trailer did not mix well. Did not show them mixing well.
Interesting.
No.
And I was taken aback by how
Actually,
action-oriented this trailer was.
I think the number one problem was sabotage.
So the trailer starts, and if you don't watch trailers, you don't watch trailers, but it starts off with BC Boys' Sabotage, which was in Star Trek 2009. It's a song that James Tiberius Kirk, as a kid, plays in the car as he steals his dad's car.
Yeah, but the
His
whole
stepfather's car.
the whole trailer is that it felt so wrong.
So it's a callback to that scene, and it's directly referenced because in the scene, Simon Pegg pokes his head out in the trailer and says, what is this music playing? And then Kirk says, good choice in the song. It's confirmed that song is actually the song that's playing when it's happening. It's not like a song.
What do you mean
that
that's
they made.
confirmed? In the movie?
Justin Lin did an interview.
Huh.
He said Sabotage is confirmed. That is the song.
You
that's
know,
actually playing.
okay, so I have mixed feelings about this because I've watched every single Trek series ever, and one of my biggest gripes has always been, as much as I love Star Trek, it's like sanitized. It's like if there's going to be any reference or watching of anything, it's either Shakespeare or classical music, and it always got on my nerves and was boring. And I loved in Voyager when I just forgot his name. Tom. I think Tom
Paris.
Yeah, I love his shtick where he goes on the holodeck and works on muscle cars and listens to classic rock, and like that was refreshing to me. But this is like this goes too far, and it just took me out of Star Trek so much. Like
Now that's a good point, because that's a thing that people hated about Voyager. And
see, I like it. I enjoy.
So I'm
that
surprised
about
that you would
Voyager.
like the Tom Paris's his fixation on 20th century media and culture.
Yeah.
And you don't think that that's strange for, I thought it was strange. Why would someone in the 23rd century like Beastie Boys? I mean, sure, Beastie Boys are immortal.
I have no problem with it being in the movie itself, but the trailer just felt it just did not feel like Star Trek at all.
So it was very action packed. You see the Enterprise getting just hammered.
It looks like it got destroyed.
Probably gets. I mean, I think after 3 movies, it's about time for the Enterprise. This Enterprise to get destroyed.
True. Yep.
That makes there's only so many retrofits and repairs you can do.
Yeah, they only went 2 movies in the original series, right?
Yeah.
So, but Justin Lin did say that it's set 2.5 years after Inner Darkness, which is about how long it's been since Into Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been 2.5 years in their deep space mission.
Did they go on a mission at the end of the last movie?
At the end of Inner Darkness, they say a 5-year mission.
Oh, that's
no one's ever
right.
done that before in deep space, which sets up that's the series. That's the beginning of the series, because the first 2 movies, as much as Inner Darkness was a misstep for J.J. Abrams, the first 2 movies work together as an origin, and then launch the family that go off onto their 5-year mission.
That's right. And Spock does the intro to the series, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So this is supposedly into that 5-year mission. The ship is seen somewhere. It's been done its exploration. Justin Lin did say they would be doing a lot of exploring, introducing aliens. He feels it's very Star Trek. Directors love talking about how much when they're doing reboots, how much the original show meant to them and their family and stuff like that, which I believe. I buy that. But he's also known as a big action director. And so there are, the big action finale of the trailer where Kirk is teleporting and grabs the girl, the new alien girl, and they teleport. That scene is almost exact shot to shot the same Vin Diesel scene where he jumps out of a car and grabs Michelle Rodriguez, Lucky's or whatever, I forget her name, Michelle Rodriguez's character when they fall out of the car and off the cliff. So it's going to be heavy on action.
Never seen any Fast and Furious films, but at the Universal Studios tour, that's part of what you experienced. You go into a tunnel, and the Fast and the Furious guys, you help them escape somehow with some motion simulated ride. So I know what you're talking about now.
Is it the Universal Studios version of the Cars ride?
What's the Cars ride? What do you mean?
It's Disney, the Cars.
No, it's nowhere near that cool.
Okay.
No, don't even compare them. Absolutely not.
For the record, the Disney Cars ride, and there's a name for it.
Racing Ridge, something Racers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is possibly the best amusement park ride of all time.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's most.
Do you think that the next Star Trek film is going to relate to any of the old episodes or an old movie like the last movie did?
I don't think so.
They were smart enough.
You think-
Which is good.
Totally
Which is
new.
good. Yeah.
Are they now into their own universe where there is?
I will say this, even though I'm bad mouthing the trailer, I will say that it looks fun because it looks like they are out there, and it looks like it may just be more like an adventure episode rather than everything's riding on this and like the big and that's I would like that.
Yeah, because one of the complaints, actually, it's like the inverse of the complaints of Star Trek Next Generation. With Next Generation, Generations was a big deal movie because you had it was the fate of the universe, fate of the galaxy. Plus, it was a mixture of old and new. First Contact, it was their greatest enemy returned, and then people thought Insurrection was a boring Star Trek movie because it was just like a long episode. Well, this Star Trek reboot, we haven't had 168 episodes of Star Trek with this new Kirk and this new Spock. And so we've only had the major, the world at stake events on screen. So I would be happy for them to have a more traditional science fiction adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. I want to talk about real quick, if we haven't talked about it on the podcast yet, the Wu-Tang album, the Wu-Tang Clan album.
Yep.
Yeah.
How expensive is that album?
$2 million.
And how many people can own it?
Just one.
Wow.
Just the one.
And who owns it?
Yeah. Did you hear about what happened to him though?
Yes. There's so many things to talk about here. So
the pharmaceutical guy,
the douchebag Martin
Dimitri or something.
No, it's Shrekly or something like that. The pharmaceutical guy raised like the price of drug by like 7,000% or something like that. And so he bought this Wu-Tang album, which cannot be sold or profited from for like 100 years or something like that.
You can't even play it for anybody.
Actually, no, you can play it, but not for profit.
Okay, but
is the thing.
Maybe not for an audience.
Yeah, or
there's rules.
Yeah, you could play it, but it cannot be for any profit whatsoever. But this is what I want to talk about.
Well, so to set it up, Wu-Tang made an album, a full-length studio album, and as a stunt or as a concept, wrote up a long contract, said they're going to sell it to one person, and they sold it to this person before it came out that he was a terrible person. That only this person, they own it, and they own the rights to play it for their private audience. But it's also stipulated, Sean, is that what you're alluding to?
Yes, there's a rider that says that within the ownership, the Wu-Tang Clan the original members of the Wu-Tang Clan are allowed to stage a heist to reclaim the album without any legal repercussions. Them and or Bill Murray.
And I
want to see this movie.
Well, I just want to see it happen for real. I don't think it's going to happen. Bill Murray has better things to do. But this guy, also the CEO of this pharmaceutical company, also recently was just arrested. I think this morning.
Yes.
By the FBI, no less.
For
sweet justice.
For fraud.
Yes.
For financial fraud. Yeah. And now let's get to our last segment. Testing this week. Hey, what have you guys been testing? That was also made by Eric Lott.
Sets you up, just like right there. We could just go into it.
Good stuff.
Jeremy?
I like the VR Minute more, personally.
You want to play it again?
No. We're good. Okay, look, I have one thing I want to talk about, and that is Ori and the Blind Forest. Have you guys played this game?
No.
It came out in March, so I officially slept on it. I did not know about it. I watched, I don't know, I saw some, my favorite games of the year, and this was on it, and I thought those graphics looked amazing. So I'm going to go check it out. It's $20. It's on Steam. It's also on Xbox One. It was published by Microsoft Studios.
Oh.
Developed by a new studio called Moon Studio, I want to say. Awesome game. Awesome. It's a platformer, but it is just, I don't want to blow it up too much, but it is just the most beautiful game that I have played, that I can remember playing. It's like if coders could paint, it would look like this.
Wow.
It's insane. I mean, it's so beautiful. And the sound is amazing. Like the sound effects when you're in the map and you're moving it around, it sounds like two pieces of rock moving together. The music in the game, you play this cute character, but it is a hardcore platformer. And there are some difficult challenges that maybe some players will just stop playing.
That would be me.
But play until you get there, because it is well worth your money. This is my favorite game of the year.
It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
I'll check that out.
It's called Ori and
the Blind Forest.
The Blind Forest. Sean, have you been testing anything new?
Just my power grid.
Yeah, tell the story.
I discovered last night that I cannot run 3 3D printers and my new panel heater at the same time. I blew the breaker in my workshop and killed 3 prints in the process. It was a bad night. It was terrible.
Yeah.
It's funny because I thought I was good because I'd been running it during the day, but I think the thing is I had it on low and Kate was using it and turned it on high and kaboom. Other than that, I haven't really been testing too much.
We've been also ongoing testing of the Form 2. Ran a few hiccups, but trying different materials.
Yeah, we've had our first few hiccups with it.
So
Yeah.
we are working through those. Still impressed when it works, the quality of the prints, but
Yeah.
also trying different materials.
Yeah.
So expect that review early next year.
Mhm.
And then hopefully before the end of the year, we'll have a review of the iPad Pro. We actually had some artists come in. Marty Cooper came in, and we had some comparisons of him doing the iPad Pro and also the Microsoft Surface, and some interesting insights from him as an artist and how he would use the pencil with the iPad Pro. But you have to wait for that. But we have CES coming up. We shot a bunch of videos. Jeremy, Sean, and the rest of the Tested family shot some videos that will be going online soon. Our favorite gear of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Some really nice product recommendations. We also have some Star Wars related videos. Nothing, well, I can't say nothing spoilerish. We have a few videos that don't spoil the movie. And there is one video that's going to go up next Monday that has information.
You mean this Monday?
This coming Monday.
Okay.
That doesn't spoil a plot point, but it does spoil a production, a little bit of a production insight.
Can I browse tested without being spoiled? Like, can I? Will the image
define
spoil the movie?
spoil?
Will the headline or the image that you have at the top of the story in the front blog, will that spoil anything?
Yes.
Okay. Be careful. You
Be
heard
careful.
it here.
On
You've
Monday.
been warned.
Yeah. Go watch it this weekend, I guess is the point. I'm 3 hours until I get to go. And we have another week of build coming up on Tested. Frank and I are going to build some stuff, build a automata kit, and then I think we're going to wrap up the end of the year with some Lego with Friends. But that does it for this week's episode of This Is Only a Test. Thank you guys for listening. Thank Jeremy, Sean. Thank you guys for joining me this week. And this week's outro is a familiar one, so I'm just going to play this one.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
I don't want anything to do with that stuff. I'm farty enough naturally.
It's true.